We will change the world.
Right. So in the past, since I had the separation and loss, when I was only 4, this conflict inside of me built, and the anger and pain I was feeling actually went into my social life, which means it was a part of my school education, and also my environment of how I was living and interacting with people. So the conflict of that separation and loss of how it affected me personally entered into my school life. And as a young child, I was very creative. I always had a passion for creating things, whether it was art or designs or pictures or images. I was one of those sort of kids. I never was really a academic child. I never was really a child that was into books and you have to read this and you have to study that. I was more of the artist, creative type of child. And when I was younger, that's all I really wanted to do. And it was weird that when I was 4, because of that conflict of the anger and loss, I found a way to channel it at that time, which was creating things. And I used to create art, a lot of art and designs, and a lot of characters and um, feelings towards what I was feeling. Because I was so young, I couldn't express it at the time, but I could create it. I could make a picture that showed, what I was feeling, or I could write something that was a part of what I was feeling, and that's the way I dealt with it for a while. The weird thing is, I never knew that creating was a passion of mine because I was only young. I didn't know that was part of who I was. But because I didn't know that was part of who I was, and I was still in conflict, in school I had to suffer, which was the third thing I experienced in conflict. The suffering of people telling you you're dumb, and people telling you you're dyslexic and you're stupid, and you just don't fit in, and you are just a retard, and you don't have no skills, comparing me to other sort of people. And since I was 4, in my early school life, I had to get so much abuse from people, verbally, physically, uh, which was basically bullying. And I was always being compared to, my twin brother, which was much more academically smarter than I was, and much more popular than I was. So I was always looked at as the reject. Um, I was always looked at as scum. I was always looked at as someone that's it's not worth anything. And living with that every day in your school life, the one place where you're meant to be finding who you are as a person, you're meant to be creating, or you're meant to be, being helped by the teachers who can encourage you to find your passion. And for me, school life was the complete opposite. It just wasn't like that whatsoever. It was complete hell. And I never learned a thing in school. I never learned anything. All I learned in school is that I was being controlled, and there was no way out of it, and I was being controlled by doing something I didn't want to do. I was being controlled by people telling me I'm something I'm not. I was being controlled by not having any idea of the whole environment of education and what it means, because I thought it was meant to be about helping people find who they are, and the teachers help those people to find who they are. And in education there are some teachers that are specifically like that, which is what, teachers should be doing, helping people to find who they are. But for me, in my personal academic life, it was just never like that. I never found one teacher that helped me to really harness my creativity, and that was the biggest, to me, probably the biggest downfall I had when I was younger. I never had the opportunity to show my creative side, and out of everything, that was probably the biggest conflict, because I was studying things I had no interest. I was in classes with people I didn't like. I was in an environment that wasn't a part of who I was, and all these conflicts, it just really got to me as a person. And that same anger that I had from the separation and loss, it grew even more because I was more angry and more upset and more hurt with the current situation I was in. And that was my third conflict that I experienced. So after the school life, the ages between from 4 to around 10 and 11, my mum moved me, my brothers and sisters to Tooting, and that's where I'm from. That's who I am. I'm from Tooting. We moved to Rains Close, off Church Lane, which is in Tooting Broadway, and this was a ghetto estate, I'll call it, or the estate of, I would say, the streets, the hood, the slums and the ghettos, all in one. And strangely enough, this is where I was brought up. This is the place I had to live. And to be honest, this is where the path of conflict becomes very extreme, of what conflict is. This is the real essence of where all my conflict began. Right, so when I was around, I don't know specifically what age, I was young at the time. Due to my young age of conflicts that I was living in, as I said, it grew in my character. It built up for many years. So the anger that I felt through a separation and the hurt and the loss and all the things I experienced in the past, it became a part of who I was. So I became angry, I became violent, I became abusive, I became insecure, I became all these things that were negative. I did a lot of things because of this conflict. First thing I used to do when I was younger was, number one, I was very, very violent and very abusive to people. Because of the conflict that I lived in, because of the anger that I had inside of me. And I took it out on people that I know. Random strangers, I used to rob them, beat them up, take their money, take their clothes, take their chains, take whatever possessions they had, because I thought that was good. I thought this is how life should be. Now I can take out all my frustration out on people and there's going to be no consequences to my actions. So I used to have lots of girls. I used to sleep with lots of girls for no reason. I used to just smoke weed every day for no reason. I used to just chill at the park all day for no reason. All these things that were just corruptive and, to be honest, pointless. Completely pointless now I look back at it. It was just a waste of time and a waste of life. And, it's just, at the time, that's what living was about in the ghettos, making a lot of money, getting the nicest girls, or the girls having the nicest guy, flossing, dressing nice, all this materialistic lifestyle. And I got caught up in that, and that was the ultimate conflict. And just cutting it short, in my time of Tooting, I met a lot of people. There's a lot of people that I grew up with, loads of people, and I rekindled my passion for creativity because when I was living with my mum, I used to draw again. I re-found that creative side of me, which was art, creating, and also music. And I started to listen to lots of music when I was younger at the time. Back in those days, it was grime days, so it was all about the grime, the hard, grime hip hop sort of music, and that's what I grew up off. Like a Dizzy Rascal and Wiley and all these other major artists, and because of this, I felt passion for music, and it was part of me. Growing up in the States, I would observe and jam with my friends and chilling, and we have MC battles and stuff like that, and it was good. Those are the positive things about the past. Even though it was all living in conflict, there was still some sort of love for everyone. There was love for just being young, and that's not a bad thing. And I think the things that I took from my past was, that passion. I didn't know what it was. I just knew every time it was something to do with creative things, I felt better. And did help the conflict to ease. But still there was a burning conflict inside of me that never went away. So as you know, growing up in the hood, going through these different stages and stuff, you observe, you learn different things, and this is where life for me goes completely downhill of conflict, and this is where I'll call it the lifestyle of conflict becomes in. Right,